Welcome back to your weekly episode of the CeltsAreHere flagship podcast for the last time, unfortunately. It's myself, Declan, and Quinny. I'm off to pastures now, Quinny, unfortunately, so I'm going to be leaving you behind. If there's ever an opportunity to come back, though, I'd probably like to come back because covering Celtic and Ange's season 2 has been an absolute joy and privilege. And I'm a bit gutted I'm not going to get the kind of end yet. 'Cause I think that's going to be really, really exciting last couple of months. But yeah, I'll be watching on from afar. I'll certainly be tuning into this each week. And I will still be going to all the games, I hope. Made sure that was obviously in the deal, Quinny, that was a Monday to Friday job, so I could still go to the football on a Saturday or a Sunday. So all there. Last game out, Scottish Cup, Tynecastle. Celtic into the semi-final of the Cup. Just before we came on there, it's been confirmed that Celtic shall play Rangers on Sunday, April 30th, kick-off time of 1:30 p.m. There was a wee bit, I think, Quinny, before that was actually announced that people thought because the Kilt Walk was on in Glasgow and the Sunday, they might have made it the Saturday, but that's going to be the Falkirk game, Falkirk Inverness Cali Thistle. So yeah, it's going to be the Sunday for that game. Let's go right into it with Tynecastle getting at the meat and bones of it. I don't think we were anxious going into the game, but it was always a bit of a banana skin. And under Ange Postecoglou, I think it was Stevie over in 67 Hill that might have said it, and that it was the most kind of complete dominating performance, something a wee bit like that 3-0 game up at Tannadice, not December there, but December before. It was just complete control and dominance over the game.
Completely. And again, like we were expecting on both, we're expecting after talking last week that maybe Hearts were going to try and have an ace up their sleeve for the weekend game and maybe they were going to really go all after it. But really after like 10 minutes, it felt like they just wrote off their whole week, like it was a real, there was no real, I say we've played Hearts and they've been much tougher, even in this season. And we've played other teams in this season, St Mirren being one of them, where they've gave us much more of a game. There's been a bit more jeopardy in the match. It's felt that what Hearts certainly gave us. It was a great performance for sure. I really enjoyed watching it. I just want to say, but before we do kind of properly get into the meat and bones, I know you're excited and ready to go because it's your testimonial, as it were, Declan. But like on behalf of like everyone that probably watches this, like, but before doing this with you, mate, I used to catch you every now and again when you did like Celtic Fans TV, and then I've seen you on Axom and stuff like that, mate. So you'll be a big miss to the Celtic community, mate. There's no two ways about it, mate. So on behalf of anyone that's probably going to comment in the video down below wishing you well, like I just want to say that as well, mate. It's been nice doing this with you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you kicking ass and taking names on the official side of things,
I really appreciate that, mate. I was having a wee laugh earlier on. Somebody said in Twitter, does that mean you get a shot at the supercomputer? But I'll not be focusing in sport. I'm getting into news, so no supercomputer for me. Well, no, that's a load of nonsense. That wouldn't be something I'd be too interested in. So I'll be on news. But as I say, it's been an absolute pleasure to do this and kind of kickstart my career in journalism. I've got a degree in journalism and politics, and to kind of start that with writing an alternative view, being on Axon, being on here, previously Celtic Fans TV with Paul. It's been an absolute joy, and there's been certainly highs and lows, but all been worth it. But again, thanks very much, mate. One of the things, before we get into the quality up front, I really want to kind of start with Joe Hart. It was a big performance from him in Saturday, and I know before I've not maybe been harsh on him, but I've always kind of said maybe for Celtic to evolve in the next couple of years, it might be a position in the park that we might need to look at. But a tremendous double save at the weekend when the game was still, I don't know if you want to say on a knife edge, but we're only leading 1-0. You know that if the opposition, especially at Tynecastle, which can be, toxic, but I think it was somebody described it as a bear pit. You know that if they're going to get a goal back, Quinny, no matter what, the crowd's going to get up for it. But you could tell that the Jambles crowd on Saturday was becoming really, really frustrated with their team.
Yeah, for sure. And Joe Hart is definitely becoming like, previously in the season, you're spot on. He has been quite a decisive figure because it's like the natural position where you do look at in the squad and think, oh, surely we're going to get another goalkeeper, but we keep buying other players and like, how deep do we need to be in these other areas? And it's obviously been fantastic. So it's one of those ones where it's kind of like, it's the elephant in the room, he is a veteran, and all the rest of it. But one thing that I hope maybe a lot of Celtic fans that were unsure about Joe Hart maybe also kind of come to the realization with is every goalkeeper in the world has got their flaws. Every goalkeeper in the world will let you down in certain moments, in certain instances. They've all got their own weaknesses, you know. And Joe Hart, for what he gives you, man, like, you know, in those crunch decisions, those big matches, he's been there. And you're not going to get a guy that's phased by the big occasion in Joe Hart. You get a leader. You get a guy that's capable of the saves. You get a guy that's capable of doing all the stuff we need him to. But I think sometimes people get that confused with, oh, we want someone we need someone that doesn't have this mistake versus, you know, someone that, because again, like if we look at Barkas, for example, he was a guy that on metrics does all the passings, a good save, you know, but could not handle playing at Celtic for any given reason you want to say. Whereas with Joe Hart, maybe he doesn't have the passing stats, but he can play for Celtic, you know, and it's not, you know, it doesn't faze him in that sense. So great to see him in a big game pulling off some big saves, because that's important for a goalkeeper. And that was a wee kind of mild epiphany I kind of had over it all as well, that I thought I would kind of throw out there as well.
And there's a wee caveat in that too, Quinny. Obviously, both you and I get the opportunity to speak to Scott Brown the other day, which was very surreal because, you know, for me, it's like kind of Bruni and Callum McGregor's the two guys that I've grown up with. They've had a lot of success at Celtic. If I was kind of picking a best 11 of players that I've got to see in a Celtic jersey, I'd probably put both of them in. And something that Bruni said the other day was, he was asked to think about, you know, Ange Postecoglou, and he mentioned recruitment. And one of the things he said, which I thought was kind of telling, was that you need a big personality to be Celtic goalkeeper. And he mentioned Fraser Foster and Craig Gordon in that, and losing both of them. And he says that bringing Joe Hart in, he thought was very, very important, which is quite telling. Obviously, you mentioned Vasilis Barkas there, and that he probably wasn't that personality in the dressing room. But again, if you look at the external factors to that, it comes in during a pandemic and whatever else. But he's not had that kind of profile and, you know, experience at that kind of level.
Yeah, for sure. So it's one of these ones, you but goalkeepers, I think and I've seen it with other clubs across Europe and all the rest of it, but be careful what you wish for sometimes, you know, because goalkeepers, like, they can make or break your season, as we've seen firsthand, you know, and sometimes, you know, like I say, it's be careful what you wish for stuff. You know, I'm happy to see Joe Hart at the club. Yes, will we have a better keeper at some point on like metrics and actual performances and stuff like that? Probably, possibly. You know, will the club be looking at new goalkeepers? Almost certainly. You know, they'd be stupid not to. But that's no like slight on him in any way, shape, or form. It is just, I say, it is what it is. He's 35 or whatever. You know, at this stage, he's get more years behind him than in front of him. It's just the natural part of it. But that leader part of it is intangible, because you're not going to get a guy at 24 that has his experience and, you know, all the rest of it that goes with it.
Not at all. And, you know, I think kind of pound for pound, when you're looking at Ange Postecoglou's signings at £1 million, he was a bit of a steal. I think at first he actually came in 15 grand a week. He'd made his money, obviously, down south with City. He was at Birmingham before that. I remember he was over in Torino. I think he was at West Ham as well, and then obviously Spurs. So he certainly made his money, and he was hungry to play football. And he's came up here, and, you know, I think kind of pound for pound, looking at Ange's signings and recruitment, he's right up there for me, Quinny, in terms of what he's brought to the club. But as I say, Saturday, really big save. It wasn't tasted too much, but again, you get the other disappointing part of it, and the objects were thrown at him. And we know that Tynecastle creates a really good atmosphere. You know that the fans are right on top of you. But disappointing to see that kind of stuff again. We hope that stuff's dealt with, because at one point he was refusing to go behind the ball to go behind the goal to collect the ball. And it's not the first time at Tynecastle, is it?
No, for sure. It's definitely like, it's one of those ones where, for us especially, you know, like, we are forever hearing about, not really forever, you know, our fan behaviour's, I'd say, exceptional overall, but there is always instances where, you know, like, it's not the case, you know, and you would hear much more about it if it was Celtic or Rangers fans doing that, you know, if I can even just say it in that sense. So just because it's Hearts and it's not one of the favourite people to put in the headlines and whatever, sometimes it maybe will get overlooked a little bit, but it's not good enough. You know, all you need to do is go back over the last 10 years, and there's probably an incident a season at Tynecastle to do with fans or a missile or something, you know. And when it gets to the extent, you know, we all want a high octane atmosphere. We all want fans, you know, like just Celtic fans, you know, like I forget what stadium it was. It was one of the away games we had recently, but getting the green, white, and gold flares on and all that, and, you know, the tifos and the singing, that fan culture, we all love it, but that stays in the stand. It doesn't come onto the pitch, you know what I mean? And so it's one of those ones where, you know, like, it crosses the line when it crosses the pitch for me, you know.
Yeah, and even kind of on pyrotechnics as well. I know there's a lot of debate in the media about this, but you can see how exceptional it is to look at. The Celtic fans made a point of that on Saturday. I think it really, it's about time, and I think it's probably overdue that there is come a sit down to make it safe. Scandinavian countries have a way of making safe pyrotechnics. I think it's through a kind of cold pyro and whatever else. Make it safe because it isn't going away. You see it all across Europe. It's not just a Celtic issue. See it all across Europe. Scandinavia's taking a step forward. We know there's a hell of a lot of comparisons sometimes between Scotland and Scandinavia, so I think it's about time that's something that is actually looked at. Just
I
kind of
didn't know
going
that
back to
detail about Scandinavia,
yeah,
Declan. But what
yeah,
I was going to say is,
have a wee look at
there's
it.
a mad. I was
Interesting.
going to say there's a mad derby in Sweden. I forget what one it is, but it's like hotly contested by
Is
the
it
fans.
AIK and somebody?
I think it might be, and I've
And
seen them. That's
Brøndby.
what I was going to say. Is
Brøndby
they
and
fire
somebody, that's it.
fireworks. Yeah, I mean they have a full
Aye.
firework display come out the stand.
Yep.
But I didn't realise there was some special thing that goes along with it. So that's interesting to hear.
Go and have a wee look. It's kind of like a cold pyro type thing. So it does work. But yeah, going back to Joe Hart, one of the things I was going to actually ask you, but it was something I'd seen elsewhere, but it was talking about Ange's signings and maybe Celtic signings overall in terms of the best bargain buys. In terms of Ange, I think you're really going Joe Hart and Aaron Moy, but there's a good few others to put in it, isn't there?
Abada's probably the numbers shout, if you put them all on paper, because his contributions, minutes, appearances, like I said this, I was in somebody's live chat, I forget which one it was, but like Ange Postecoglou's just clocked up 100 games at Celtic manager. Abada's got like 94 appearances.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like what did he cost us? Like $500,000 or something? His goals
like
and assists has been worth through the roof per minute, So I think he's by numbers, probably the guy that would scoop it. But yeah, Joe Hart, Moy, the bargains we've been scooping, and that's what makes part of the spice that goes on in the media between the blue side. I feel like when they're coming out talking about transfer kitties and spending big on squads, when you actually look at the individuals we've brought in on a case by case basis, we've been very frugal. We've not spent over like 3 or 4 million quid, I don't think, on anyone. But this is kind of what Man City done in a bigger extent, where Man City went through a period for like 7 years and everyone they bought was 40 million, 50 million. They never bought anyone for 100 or 10, And we're kind of in that little zone where also it's different scales, but everyone we're buying is a £3-4 million player at face value when we get them, and then we're polishing them up and turning them into, a team, which is exceptional, So yeah, tons of bargains in the squad.
Yep, and even CCV and Jota, they were obviously the deared ones, but
sure.
In terms of contribution and all that stuff, 6 million quid for both of them to me is a bit of a snip because of what they've actually given you. So even in that terms, taking those two out of the equation, as you say, Quinny, Hatatis and whatever else, Johnston's, they've all been in that kind of category. Kyogo too, at 4 million quid, and suggested in an interview that he was his banker. He knew that he was a player that would come in and hit the ground running right away, and he certainly did that. So plenty of bargains in it. We'll talk about one of those bargains in Aaron Moy. It's getting ridiculous now because he just, every single game, he just turns up, performs, goes home, does his post-match interview, does he like doing that, goes home and pats his dog. He's just absolutely exceptional.
And after he pats his dog, he must listen to this show because we've been giving him. Aye, that's it. We've been giving him all the yes. We've been giving him all the monikers on this show. The new Lubo and the Lost Maverick and all the rest of it. And yeah, man, we're running out of terms for him. He's been doing absolutely brilliant, and like the pressure on the midfield. We were kind of alluding to the transfer business earlier in terms of the quality in other positions, not in goalkeeper. And midfield is one of them where when these guys are getting brought in, you're thinking, oh, Moy is just going to be filler to O'Reilly. And I kind of thought, well, maybe the thought is O'Reilly's not going to be around for another 12 months. And then this guy will fill in the meantime. Then we go find another like prospect O'Reilly replacement. But it's been the absolute opposite, if anything. O'Reilly hasn't really dropped the ball necessarily, but Moy's just taken it to a new level of expectation, I think, of what you need to do in that team, which is more than anyone expected.
Just looking at it, 37 appearances, 7 goals, 10 assists, goal contribution of 17 in 37 games. Absolutely excellent. Really difficult finish on Saturday. I know it looks nice in the eye, but to actually do that with your body, to get into that position, the cutback's excellent, but the finish is absolutely awesome.
I was watching it on TV, mate, and see when they were replaying the goal, see the noise the ball makes when it smashes off the inside of the net and the stanchion rings and everything. Like very difficult finish, lovely goal, and like for something that looks quite simple, ball rattled across the face, takes a wee bounce and all that, and it's just that first time, and boom, what a noise that came off of it. And it was one of those ones where, mate, like, because of that, like, I just felt everyone got 2 foot taller on the pitch after that goal went in, and yeah, it was clinical to say the least, and great technique.
Absolutely. I managed to see it. The first chance that we actually got in the game because of the old pyro, couldn't see it too well. It was actually quite funny. The ball, I think I've watched it back, and one of the guys beside me went, "Ooh," and I thought, "You've never seen that. You're just making that noise to kind of, as if you have seen it." And then, it cleared a wee bit more, and right away, bang. And again, that I think Quinny just completely destroyed Hearts' game plan. It had been set up. We'd both said on here last week that the game had been set up quite nicely, going from Celtic Park. We told all the nonsense from Robbie Nielsen about decapitated and blah, 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 his usual moan. But surprisingly, after the game on Saturday, there was no moaning from him. I think he just knew that he'd been beaten by a better team eventually.
Yeah, well, it's one of those ones. The writing's on the wall with it. 2 games in a week, and fair enough. Maybe they didn't have everyone they could call upon that they maybe would have wanted, but all the same, that goal. Let's say everyone in green and white got 2 foot taller, or maybe everyone in maroon got 2 feet shorter. But definitely that goal, like it was basically at that point, right, here we go, man, party time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, as I spoke about that control, apart from that chance, that's great save from Joe Hart. I can understand his anger because to me it's a foul, and Clancy's right over him as if he was to blame.
100%.
And even again with his head, there wasn't too much a check for Clancy to make sure that it was actually okay. So I can understand Joe Hart's anger with that. And then, I think we'll bring it up. The penalty again, denied a clear penalty. It's not getting spoken about at all, but it's a penalty. Johnson makes a run into the box. Halliday takes him out. Clancy doesn't even look at it. He's not even called to look at it.
Yeah, well, it's to be expected, really, isn't it? That's kind of where I'm kind of like defeated against it all already. You're just expecting it to not be the fair and balanced outcome that this technology should be offering, on these occasions. But again, we're fortunate that, not fortunate, but it's just well and good that we're such a good team where even having that against you, it is a handicap. Like, it is like ridiculous. Like, one of the goals that get chopped off a week or two ago, like, you've seen it all over the manager's face, or was it the penalty that became the free kick, I think is what it was. In the comments after the game was they don't miss anything, and it's one of those ones where if it was the other way around, they'd have taken 4 minutes to look at it, and they'd have went through every interpretation of the rule book and translated it into Latin, and then tried to make another interpretation out of it again, and then say, oh, it's a penalty against Celtic or whatever. But when it's the other way around and you're winning the game and you're looking comfortable, they're not interested in it, and like whatever at this point, really.
No, not at all.
For me,
it just shows, I think, Celtic's strength and dominance over it all. When you're actually looking at it, and it's, I want to say it's baffling, but it's beyond a point of baffling now, because ever since its introduction, I feel as if both you and I have been speaking about it every single week. Particularly, both you and I would rather no speak about it every single week. But it's there because it's a problem, and the incompetence, bad decisions, if people want to call it a bias, okay, against Celtic is woeful. And decisions like that, there's just no explanation for. If Clancy doesn't think, okay, but there's somebody watching that back, Quinny, which again just, pretty much says it all. It's almost as if VAR over the course now has just highlighted further bad refereeing, and as I say, if you want to call it incompetence, bias, whatever, that's absolutely all it's did for me since its introduction. Whether there's any change to that, I wouldn't hold my breath in the summer. I know there's things about chats behind closed doors and whatever else, but I don't think there'll be too much change to that. Again, but we're talking about game plans being killed by an early goal. Celtic did it just in the Viaplay Cup final too, the goal before half time. That completely changes the dynamic of the game. It means Nielsen's gone in to half time with a team talk that's went through 1-0 to 2-0, and it's an absolute mountain to climb. And again, talking about tasty finishes, what a finish from Kyogo.
Hi, it's brilliant, man. And like everything he's touching is turning to gold now, and it really feels that he's properly like in that mode. Like we were talking about like pre-World Cup of like the team needs to get that cohesion, that synergy where like all these half chances, just start becoming real chances all of a sudden. And yeah, like Kyogo, like it's great as well. Like I think for this coming in and his development, because like Kyogo is just like 18 months further down the road in terms of integration and being up to speed with it and all the rest of it. And he's setting such a high bar. We're talking about the bar Moyes kind of readjusted on O'Reilly, as it were. But he's setting the bar so high that all the other forwards need to keep up with that in terms of production. Like, we'll probably get into the game at the weekend, but like Haksabanovic obviously started against Hearts, didn't get the goal or didn't make any like notable, an assist or something like that. I think he probably now comes into the weekend expecting to be back on the bench, and that's how like ruthless it is in the Celtic team, where if you're starting, you're getting 60 minutes over 30 minutes over someone else. You need to make that time count in this team, So Kyogo just goes from strength to strength, and it's brilliant for everyone around the team.
That's something that the manager continually speaks about, Quinny, is opportunity. He speaks about it in his own personal sense, and that he was given an opportunity to come to Celtic, football, and even life. You'll always get opportunities. It's all about you taking them, stepping up and taking them. For Haksabanovic the weekend, I thought he was deserving to start after the 3-1 win at Celtic Park. It was a great goal, but it wasn't too effective in the game. And as you say, there's that absolute ruthlessness there for a man Postecoglou, in that if you're given the opportunity and you don't maybe show your part, it might change about. But again, something I thought was quite revealing in that opportunity. They always get an opportunity at Lennoxtown each and every single day. Playing probably 90 minutes of football won't be... It'll certainly be in his thinking, but it might not be too much in his judgment actually who starts the following game, which again is important when you're talking about a big squad, because I think that's really, really interesting, that not just what you do on the park, but what you actually do in training is going to be judged by the manager.
Yeah, and I found the comments really interesting. I forget where I actually came across them exactly, but somebody asked one of the players something like, "Oh, how do you feel that there's no midweek football this week?" I think this was last week, and the player came back and said it's harder in training when we've not got a midweek game.
It was me that asked that. Aye.
Oh, was it? Yeah, that was great question, mate. Who was the player that said that again?
It was Haksabanovic.
Oh, was it Haxa?
Yep.
Yeah. And I found that really telling, and it paints right into exactly what you're saying there, that Lennoxtown is really the proving ground, and it paints back into the manager's comments we had a bit last year, where he says we're all trying to forecast teams on 5% of his information, So that's also good for the players as well, that they know that the training ground is where the battles, I suppose, can be won and lost. But we've seen it so many times with the likes of Abada, Maeda, even O'Reilly to an extent, and probably Turnbull, where if you do get the start and you don't score or something, then the chances of you starting the next game are very slim.
Absolutely. But as I say, it's difficult to manage a big squad, but saying that, and those opportunities at Lennoxtown, a game of football's only 90 minutes. That's kind of what you're building towards during that week. And during that week, I think you really need to show to the manager why you should be playing at the weekend. Just to kind of go back to Aaron Moy, something that was in the press yesterday was about him finishing his career at Celtic. It was talking to Parker that used to play for Manchester United. Paul Parker, who said that he thinks that Moy could probably still play Premier League level. But I think we've actually spoken about it on here before, Quinny, and that everything for Moy at this point in time just seems perfect. His wife's Scottish. He was obviously here through the pandemic after coming back from China. It just seems like a really good fit. I think Aaron Moy has been good for Celtic, and Celtic has been good for Aaron Moy.
Big time. And like you do find that with a lot of players in general when they get into the stage of the career that Moy's at, where he's definitely made a lot of money, but he's not won anything, and he has moved a lot, around England. Obviously, he's from Australia, and also that stint in China. And similar to Joe Hart, Joe Hart's been a bit of a victim of this as well. But they do get a lot of players in their twilight years do get to the stage of, I want to play for the biggest team I can for as long as I can, and just enjoy the game. And now, like, money's in the bank, that's all cool. I've had a career and done World Cups and whatever else. And now I just want to really, like, why I play football in the first place is to be part of a fun team, to win things, to be, heroes to young kids growing up. That's kind of, when we're all kicking about footballs and parks and stuff like that when we're young, you're all kidding on to be like Del Piero or Roberto Baggio or something like that, And then, that's what it's all about, and like you say, he's already got those kind of roots there, which makes it, just very logical from kind of all involved in that respect. So it would be nice to see him, I suppose, retire. I do think he could. I definitely think he's got there's no two ways about it. He's got the temperament and the technical ability to really play in any league in Europe. But I don't know if he's got the physicality. And I know we've said that even now, and you watch him, and physicality is not an issue for him. But I don't know if he's quite got the physicality to be a starter for like a top team or something like that, you know. But say composure, mentality, technique, these things are all elite standard with him. You know, he's a great guy to have on the pitch in Scottish football. He's great at Scottish football, you know. He's running it.
No, absolutely. I was saying to you before we actually came on air, I watched Real Madrid Liverpool last night, and two players, well, James Milner and Luka Modric. Modric, a far superior game, not to put and compare Moy with both, but it just does show, I think, those two guys, that if you do look after yourself, you can still play at a really high level, no matter what age you are. Both of them are 37, and that they're still playing at a very top level, which again says, I think, a lot about their professionalism and just the way that they are. And I think Moy does have that mentality. He's in really good shape, and I thought it was pretty cool that he did use that World Cup almost like a mini kind of pre-season for him, which I think, you know, says a lot about him.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, like, he's just going from strength to strength. So to see him finish his career at Celtic would be cool, yeah, if we got because the level he's playing at domestically, like, I don't see any reason you couldn't get that out of him for another 2 or 3 seasons, you know, and that would be great for us. Because, again, like we spoke about it before with Moy, potentially Starfelt when we weren't too sure what was going on with Jens and all that kind of stuff. But there's definitely some players in this squad, obviously put McGregor and Forrest into this conversation as well, that probably will be the cornerstones of the squad over the Ange Postecoglou era, as other players maybe will be sold and transferred in and out and all the rest of it. And yeah, Moy could easily be one of those kind of cornerstone figures for the next like 3 or 4 seasons easily at this rate.
Okay, and I'd have no issue with it, because one of the things, Bruni, again, not to keep going back to him, but it's obviously interesting to kind of get that that insight what was talking about, you know, players like him and McGregor who could run and do whatever else, but, you know, a player like Tommy Rogic who maybe couldn't cover the yards, but had that technical ability, which Moy certainly does have. So, yeah, it's an interesting one to see how it'll unfold. I think he's contracted to Celtic to next summer. You know, even if the day comes where his former international boss isn't in charge, it makes a hell of a lot of sense. And I think a lot of Celtic fans are still chuckling that Aaron Moy trained with Rangers last season, and it was Moy who actually picked up the phone and asked Ange the question if he could come to Celtic. So, yeah, it was. That's what he said,
I didn't know that really, part at the end. That's a good one.
Really funny. So, yeah, I'm sure I'll annoy the kind of right people and that, Quinny, but he's been
phoned up his pal and he's like, mate, I'm about to, please, is there any chance? Like, I'm in Glasgow anyway, mate, come on.
Yep. I thought it was pretty funny, but when I read that, so, but as I say, he's got that technical ability. I think he can play for a good wee while yet. Listen, if we can get 5 years out of him when he's 37, you'd be absolutely delighted with that. And as I say, it's just all about taking care of yourself and looking after yourself. Let's kind of throw in some international break chat, Quinny, and then we'll come back to the Hearts game. Firstly, let's start with Scotland. Greg Taylor, the one that kind of came out that was a bit surprising. Steve Clark called it a kind of Celtic issue. It looks as though he's got a kind of wee niggle, which again, it makes a hell of a lot of sense for him just to be left at Lennoxtown, and hopefully Celtic can sort it out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, mate, what to think of it, because I felt silly that I didn't see the Bernabei start coming, because the game before that, like, Taylor did get a bit of a dead leg in there, and I forget exactly who it was. All these games are coming thick and fast again. But the game before Bernabei played, Taylor did take a bit of a dead leg, played on through it. And then obviously, you know, I thought, okay, well, Bernabei's played. Let's see what the situation is with Taylor. But he plays 90 minutes against Hearts, looks the part. I don't remember seeing any issues with him on or off the ball particularly. And then this comment comes out, and like, I'm thinking, first of all, when I read the whole it's a Celtic issue part, I'm thinking it's Celtic, maybe Taylor, saying, listen, Steve Clark, how many left backs are you calling into this squad? And he's went 3. And he's like, okay, well, I don't need to be number 4. So maybe that's the Celtic issue. And I don't know, maybe they're talking about workload and giving him a break as well. And that's the part of it. But I didn't see him being injured against Hearts. I didn't, you know, unless something's happened between now and then, I don't know. But the way Clark then goes on to elaborate that Celtic should elaborate, then I don't know if it is necessarily an injury or if it is just them being realistic and saying, listen, mate, you've picked 3 left backs already. Going to give our guy a rest because, he's played 40 games this season or whatever. You're on mute.
It's difficult for Greg Taylor, Quinny, because he's going up against, the Scotland captain Andrew Robertson, who obviously plays at a high level with Liverpool, and obviously KT, his predecessor at Celtic. So it's going to be difficult for him. But listen, if there is that concern, and there's been a conversation between Ange and Steve Clark saying, he's got this kind of wee niggle, it made a hell of a lot of sense not to take him, because I think from a purely selfish Celtic perspective, you want your players to be fit, available. It's likely that he wouldn't have played against Cyprus or Spain unless there's maybe an injury in the game. I know kind of Scotland play that 3-5-2 system that allows KT to kind of play that left centre back role, and you have Robo as a left wing back. But I think for Greg Taylor's sake, if there is any doubt, it's been the right call. I just felt it was a wee bit kind of cryptic and a bit strange how it was kind of brought out. For Turnbull and Ralston, I think you can kind of get that just because I've had a lack of game time, can't you?
Yeah, Turnbull's unfortunate because, again, I've just went and got the squad up here. So, yeah, Hickey's in it as well. And, again, I'm never sure. People keep telling me he's left-footed but plays right back, but he's better at left back or whatever. I don't know. I'm always confused with what's going on with him. But so Hickey's in the squad as well. And I think, yeah, like Ralston is probably our best right back. And I've said before, like, Alistair Johnson is brilliant and I'm a big fan of him. But I don't think he's head and shoulders above Ralston. I think he's a little bit better if he is at all. And equally on that note, like Ralston's so unlucky not to get into this squad because he's probably just not had enough minutes to earn it. But looking at the squad, I think Porteous is the only kind of half-ish right-sided, and obviously Hickey, as we mentioned already. But the squad could use a Ralston. It definitely doesn't need a Taylor in it. Looking at it, so yeah, it's one of those ones where kind of mixed emotions. I'd like to have seen Ralston in it, but I'm kind of glad Taylor isn't because. Just want to keep the guy fit and healthy and playing his best football, really. And what's his point in him going away with Scotland to sit behind people?
Exactly. And again, there'll be a lot of Celtic fans out there who have absolutely zero interest in international football, and I'll be actually quite glad that he's not going away. It's something that goes to Scotland games. I'll be going to both games, I hope.
Nice.
I'll certainly be going to the Spain game. It's pretty difficult because, when you're looking at it, in terms of football, obviously, I always want Celtic to be at the very best, so I'm not too fussed about it at all. If there was that doubt with Greg Taylor, I'm glad he's been left behind. And for Turnbull and Ralston, it means that they get some more time on the training pitch with Ange, which, I think is always to everybody's benefit. This is probably the next point that we could probably spend a whole hour speaking about is Kyogo and Real Hatate. We were talking about Kyogo earlier. Quinny, you were talking about him raising that bar. I told you Ange said it was his banker. He scored 26 goals for Celtic this season. We've all read what Hatate and Kyogo said after the World Cup, fueling their game to take it to another level. I really don't know what both of them need to do for Jimmy Moriyasu to pick both of them.
I agree. Now, at this point, so at the World Cup, I wasn't surprised that Hatate never got into the squad. I was very surprised that Kyogo never made the World Cup. And this time, I'm properly bewildered. I'm just waiting to find the Japan squad because I do think.
I think they've only got 3 strikers in the squad.
Yeah, so the people they called up are questionable, right? But I think they also left out Tomiyasu, the guy at Arsenal. I was going to go look the squad up, but I can't find it quickly, so I'm not going to waste anyone's time waiting for me. But and so it's a funny one. The manager did come out and say something to the tune of, and again, it was misinterpreted, I think, by a few people that were happy to misinterpret it in terms of the standard of the league and whatever. But it was more a case of he's wanting to give the guy what the manager came out and said was something to the tune of the guys he's called up, he has question marks about, and he wants to, get answers to those questions. And I think that if Tomiyasu from Arsenal hasn't made the squad, I think that does kind of go along with that to an extent with the forwards. But in midfield,
no, he's in the squad. I've just checked here. Tomiyasu is in the squad. Yep, we had Takura, obviously at Gladbach. Yeah, just having a wee look at it here.
Let me go pull that up then.
I
Because
think a lot of people were actually kind of surprised with the squad, but because there was a few kind of well-known players.
Yeah, here we go. I've got it as well again.
Yep.
Yeah, he should definitely have a spot in this midfield because the designated midfielders, like one of them is called Junior Ito. He's actually like a striker. He's quite similar to Kyogo, in fact. And then Take Kubo is like a winger. He's like quite similar to Jota, I guess you would
Does he
say.
play for Sociedad?
Yeah. So like in midfield, you've got, in terms of guys that can play the same position as Rio, you've got 4 guys there. Wataru Endo, who's like a real tackler, plays for Stuttgart. Morita, who's at Sporting Lisbon. Eo Tanaka, who plays Bundesliga 2. And Kaito Nakamura, who plays Austrian Bundesliga. So like Kaito Nakamura and Eo Tanaka are both really good. But on current form, Tanaka's not even playing for his team. He's been dropped. Rio Tate should firmly be in this midfield. There's no two ways about that. And then I say up front, I think that's the comment. It's probably about the strikers like Nishimura, Machino. They wants to suss them out. And Ayase Ueda has had amazing form in Belgium, and I'm a big fan of him as well. I thought we might have signed him at some point, but we never. And I don't think he's been in a senior squad. So I think that's a case of there's a few guys in there. Maybe the manager up front is looking to get some answers to some questions, but in midfield, it is a crime that Tate is not in that team for sure.
It's interesting because there's going to be international fixtures, I think, for Japan come November time, and they're obviously going to be playing Asia Cup football next January. That there was a wee bit of worry, Quinny, in that, you know, we obviously signed Iwata, who was MVP in the J League. That there's been chatter and Kobayashi kind of stepping up to be one of Japan's new kind of trusted players with Yoshida. I think he's chucked international football and whatever else, and then obviously Maeda, Kyogo, and Daisen. So and obviously Rio too. So it's interesting because it'd be one thing to kind of leave them out for friendlies and then bring them back into the fold. But again, there's been different chat about it. I think Moriaso might have been kind of misquoted, as you say there, because if he thought Scottish football was bad, he wouldn't be taking Dyson to the both games. That there's also chat. We've obviously had Dan Orlovitz on the channel before, and I'm saying it's also possible that Celtic asked the GFA not to pull more than one player for a couple of friendlies. But
could see that.
It's really telling. It's 2 friendlies. I think they play Colombia and Uruguay. Correct me, mate, if I'm wrong in that. But again, for people that aren't too fussed about international football, they won't be that bothered because it means that Rio and Kyogo, I don't want to say they get a break because Ange Postecoglou would probably smack you if you say they get a break. They don't get games. You know, it obviously always comes with that link when the players don't get a break. They'll get a break when they retire. So it's about kind of driving forward and whatever else. But I think it's only kind of natural for us on form of what they've given us to feel sorry for Kyogo and Rio Hatate. But listen, maybe there's something in the background that it's been communicated to both of them, and that the manager didn't want too many players heading to Japan for 2 friendlies.
Yeah, I also think as well. Oh, sugar. What was I going to say there? Sorry, I've totally lost it. Oh yeah, it's my birthday on Friday, St. Patrick's Day,
okay.
Which is always thanks, mate. It's always a great time for Celtic to be playing people, right? But where I thought you were going to go with this as well initially is last time that they got snubbed, they were on some tear. Rio and Kyogo, it's probably the form that we're still enjoying off them. So getting snubbed again, like I'm really worried for Hibs at the weekend, you know, because it could be, you know, we beat Hearts pretty convincingly, and I'd say Hearts are better than Hibs, you know. And then you've got Kyogo and Rio coming into this game, you know, with steam coming out of their ears. Hibs beware.
Hibs beware. Be nice if Kyogo had a hat-trick, maybe a wee Rio brace. Obviously, we took 6 off Hibs the last time we played them at Celtic Park. James Forrest masterclass hat-trick that day, obviously getting 100 goals for Celtic. And then I think the final 2, our centre-half pairing, Starfelt called up for Sweden. Good on him. I think that's well deserved. He's been excellent for Celtic. And then CCV also left out for the USA. What's your take on that one, Quinny?
Yeah, that was another kind of bafflement. I missed it. Starfelt get called up. I think that's
he's been called up.
Because again, Sweden don't have many any like massively impressive centre backs. Maybe you'd say Lindelof because he plays at Man United, but it's not like so it's good to see Starfelt get some recognition. But the America one is baffling. I've just went and got the squad up. So yeah, in centre back they've went for Mark McKenzie, who plays very well in Belgium. He's good. Tim Ream at Fulham, Miles Robinson, who's just back from a long injury and is decent. He would actually be a good Celtic player. And that's it. That's the only centre backs they've got in their squad. Even in midfield, there's no one missed positions. Yeah, so I don't really know what to make of it. It's the CONCACAF Nations League, right? So it's just like the European Nations League, but it's CONCACAF, right? So they're gonna. I don't even know who they're exactly playing, but they will be playing like Curacao or the Caicos Islands or something like that. So I'm not really actually looking at it and seeing the competition that it's for. It's not a qualifier or a big domestic cup, as it were. It's their kind of filler tournament. It's glorified friendlies. Maybe it's not such a big deal he's not made it, but the rest of the squad, it's kind of 50-50. There's a few guys there I've heard of and a lot that I haven't. But yeah, there's only 3 centre-backs, so interesting. But yeah, it's definitely a gaff on their behalf if they're trying to pick a strong squad and not have them in.
Yeah, and again, as I say, that there could be communication in the background that possibly Celtic didn't want too many players going away for kind of glorified friendlies, as you say, Quinny. Huanga also called up to South Korea. Good on him. He'll be hoping to get a few maybe international caps under his belt. So that's the kind of take, kind of looking at it overall. The players called up. I don't know if the Canada squad's been announced. If it's not, I would imagine that Alistair Johnson will be selected for that. Kind of off the top of my head, I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. No, I don't think there is, probably at this point in time. So that's it. Are Australia playing? But would Moy be jetting away, Quinny? Is that a possibility? I'm not too sure if Australia's playing.
I'm not too sure either.
Yeah, but you'd probably expect both of them to go away. But as I say, for people who's not too fussed about international football, there's a lot getting left behind at Lennoxtown. That's a good thing for us, I think. And if there's any doubts with injuries and whatever else, it means that Celtic can give them a wee bit of TLC and sort them out and have them ready to go for that kind of last part of the season, almost when you come back in April time. It's that kind of run right through. So, yeah, that's it. While
it looks like Australia do have a game, mate. Sorry to interrupt you, but from the tweet I'm looking at, it looks like they've got 2 games against Ecuador, both in Australia, one in Sydney, one in Melbourne. Aaron Moy is in the squad alongside the likes of Jackson Irvine and Garang Kuol, the guy that's on loan at Hearts and whatever. Suter and a few other regular kind of names we've seen there. But yeah, 2 games in Australia, and it looks like the only opponent they've got here is Ecuador, so that's weird. I don't know if they're playing Ecuador twice or something, but that's interesting. Maybe only play 1 game and send half the squad home. They've done that kind of thing before Australia.
That'd be excellent. That'd be right up our street, I think. While I touched on his name earlier on, let's talk about him. Yuki Kobayashi. It would indicate with Starfelt getting called up to the Sweden squad, there's not really too much of concern there because he said that nod. Obviously had to be taken off on Saturday. He looked to be limping a wee bit. But he was away out for his dinner and Saturday night. The pictures came up that were all in Italian, so he can't be that bad. He must be okay. But Kobayashi came on at half time. He absolutely stole the game for me, Quinny. I know he's not had a lot of game time for Celtic, but he's going to be a top player for us, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Like we were trying to put together the Da Vinci Code of the Ange Postecoglou centre back master plan with all these players that we had, like when we had still Jens in the building and whatever. And Kobayashi has not put a foot wrong in the few appearances he's had, and particularly I've seen him play live. You've seen him play live now as well, but anyone who does catch him, when he is on the pitch, having that lefty on that side. The symmetry it gives us, and you see the midfield just gets a little bit, it just becomes a little bit more well-oiled in terms of how quickly it can move from wide to inside and play the run and all the rest of it. So I definitely think he's the future for us. He's definitely going to be a main centre-back. I don't think there's any 2 ways about it. It's just, does one of the older guys like Starfelt or Vickers, do one of them maybe get sold? Do one of them maybe get dropped or something? Does he just, we're talking about with Moy, does maybe Kobayashi come in at some point and lift the bar of how good that guy can be for us, and it might seem hard to imagine now, but again, it's probably impossible to imagine under Moy's arrival to an extent, so wildly impressed with him. And yeah, I think the centre backs are in a really good spot overall. I don't think Kobayashi would have ever been in that Japan conversation because I say in defence, and actually, if he does get into the squad, it'll be because he's playing very well, you know. But yeah, I've been really impressed with him, and I don't know. I was thinking for the weekend, like between this Starfelt kind of come off at half time, maybe he's got a wee bit of an injury or something. But he's been called into the national team. Greg Taylor played 90 minutes, but he's not been called into the national team. I don't think Ange would let, in air quotes, both of them not play a match on managing their minutes or anything. Do you have a worry do you think both of them will play at the weekend, or do you think one of them will miss out?
I certainly think Taylor will play if there's not too much of concern with him, because I think he's one of our most important players in the park, although Bernaby coming in, I wouldn't be too worried about. I know last week he didn't have the best of starts, but I thought he got into the game, Quinny. Kobayashi maybe coming in, I'm not too sure. I think I might be right in saying that Saturday was actually the first time we've seen Kobayashi partner Carter Vickers, because I'm sure when he made those couple of appearances, it was Starfelt playing the right centre-back and Kobayashi at left centre-back, possibly to manage minutes. He could play Kobayashi as I go back, that opportunity thing. He came in and he didn't do anything wrong. Ginnelly's been a top player for Hearts this season, and I just completely controlled and dominated him for that 45 minutes. So again, we'll just wait and see. As I say, as you said earlier on, actually, Taylor didn't look as if he had any sort of issue on Saturday, so but we'll just wait and see. But both of them coming in, would I be too concerned? No, really. But it'd be actually quite interesting to see that balance of two left-footed players on that side for us. So we'll just wait and see. It's an interesting conversation to have there with that. So we'll just wait and see, Quinny, on it. Let's go back to Big CCV. Again, talking about controlling and dominating performances, he thoroughly deserved that goal at the end of the game. And as I say, with Kobayashi dominating Ginnelly and whatever else, Vickers hardly gave Hearts a sniff at the weekend, and man of the match for me, absolutely. The goal was excellent too.
Yeah, he's head and shoulders above everyone now, isn't he? Like defensively, and if he can get into the kind of vein of form where he can be that set piece threat for us, because we don't really have a regular set piece threat. We've kind of struggled to get a consistent set piece delivery, in terms of like most teams and most Celtic teams generally have a set piece taker, and then you kind of know how the balls will go in. You can kind of we've got so many people that will have a shot and try it, and then we don't really have that many giants in the team, to really. We do a lot of short stuff and we play quick most of the time. So if he can really get him and Starfelt, obviously there was a wee period as well right at the beginning of the season where all the centre backs scored and we're like, we could maybe have a real set piece threat in every game now, and that'll help. That will only help as time goes on. So great to see him get a goal in a big match. He was kind of overdue in that respect, probably, and hopefully with that kind of cohesion we're getting with the set piece takers being a bit more regular and consistent. All these guys like Vickers and Starfelt are playing consistently, so they can get into a rhythm and a pattern. And I know how Moy plays the ball to the back post, or I know this guy likes to hit the front hard, or whatever. Because that's a weapon, that's a part of the game that we've not really tapped into this season, as being like effective from set pieces, and that's direct headers and such.
Yeah. And Kobayashi sells a big boy too. That would always be, I think, a good target in there. But no, you're absolutely bang on, Quinny. I saw something we've used too much to their effect. I think there's probably actually very rare headed goals for corners or set pieces under Ange. I think a lot of people were going back to before we scored those headers up at Tynecastle or maybe Rugby Park at the start of the season. You were going back to Stephen Welsh scoring against Betis in the Europa League. So you're getting like 8-9 months without scoring headed goals for set pieces. So listen, somebody might come in and correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm sure that's very kind of rare. So as you say, you've got a really good set piece taker in Moy. We know that O'Reilly can also smack a ball in, and other guys like David Turnbull and whatever else. You might have that wee bit of cohesion that they'll put the pass. And again, I know there's a lot kind of said about Carter Vickers' height and whatever else, but if you pull away for your marker, if the ball's good enough, you're going to bang it right into the back of the net. So, yeah, well deserved. Nice to see that happen. He was absolutely excellent the weekend. Another top performance. Like everyone was in a Celtic jersey, Quinny. I know I've kind of picked out a few that we wanted to chat about, but I think man for man, as I said at the very start of this show, that was up there with the most dominating Celtic performances I'd seen under Ange Postecoglou at, arguably not even arguably, at the second most difficult venue that you could go to.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And it's like we said before with these victories, as we've been kind of locking them up week by week in the run that we've been on. But it's, everything is just compounding confidence for the team, and Ange in particular is getting sick to the back teeth of telling journalists we take one game at a time at this point, because, that is that is the way to that is the way to go in this respect, in terms of winning the league and keeping competitive on all fronts. Is he just plays his best team every game that he can, for that individual match. Just win today, do everything you can, win the game as quick as you can, score as many goals, and like doing it at Tynecastle in such a controlled fashion, not having, we were talking about the penalty that wasn't given and whatever, right? But to not have mad controversy go against us, errors like a dodgy pass from a defender, a bad clearance from a goalkeeper, none of this stuff happens, and it's just, like you say, everyone gets 2 foot taller. And by the time we get to the semi-final, we're going to be giants.
We hope so. Obviously, that last time at Tynecastle, it was a bit frantic. It was 4-3. There was controversy with penalties being awarded that weren't penalties denied that were penalties. So there was absolutely none of that. Just Celtic completely bossed it, which is always nice to watch and good to see. That semi-final's a wee bit away. I was quite glad that was the draw, Quinny, in the sense that, if you get Rangers in a final, it's going to be an absolute, and that's no disrespect to Ayr and Inverness, but I think a lot of people would have thought Celtic and Rangers would have got to the final if they'd been drawn against one of those sides. But yourself, if Celtic and Rangers are in a final, it's frantic, it's hectic to get tickets, and everybody's wanting a ticket for the game. So if Celtic do make the final, Inverness or Ayr won't be taking too much in allocation, so you've got more chance of people going along for the day out to Hampden. So I was pretty chuffed with the draw. Were you that bored with a draw, or would you prefer to get Rangers in the semi-final?
Well, I would like to I like beat them in finals better than semi-finals personally, because it's just they need to watch you pick up the cup, they need to tick their wee silver medals, and whatever. But my neighbour, very wise man, said to me, no. You want to beat them in the semi, because then when it gets to the final, the city's ours, It's not any mad, you can enjoy the win and everyone's having a good time, and it's not like carnage and all that caper, because it's just a war zone in essence. So when my neighbour said that to me, I was like, no, I think you're onto something there. So I think semi-final is the way to go. Don't give them the day out at the final, don't give them the hope. Just beat them in the semi, and party time was all ours.
No, absolutely. And hopefully, as obviously we said earlier on, it's going to be Sunday the 30th of April, 1:30 kick-off. So we'll hopefully another strong, dominating Celtic performance at Hampden, and we'll see how we get on with that. Last kind of 5 minutes or so, Quinny. Hibs on Saturday. Do you think it'll be a kind of repeat of the last time of taking 10 goals off Hibs in the past 2 games against them?
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier, Hibs beware. Like Kyogo and Rio are out there to score worldies and do all sorts in this game to really highlight to this guy in Japan once again, like, what are you doing not picking us? Never mind everyone else who is just as motivated as them to just get into our team, never mind their national team or whatever, So coming to Celtic Park with the form that we're on and everything as well, I do fear for Hibs. I was looking at Hibs' predicted 11 in terms of the sort of team that they'll be looking to bring, because I know they've had some problems with injuries and they've not got that much depth or whatever, but it looks like they might have like Nesbitt back available and one or two of the other better players, so they'll maybe have a bit of confidence coming into this. And we know Lee Johnson's good for a giggle in the pre-match and all the rest of it, maybe even the post-match as well. So I don't think it'll be a dull affair. I don't think Hibs will roll over. I think they'll definitely have a go, but I just don't, I think Hearts are better than Hibs, and Hearts couldn't touch us, couldn't lay a glove on us, to use the boxing expression. So to be lazy, I don't think Hibs have much of a chance on that basis.
And you asked me the question earlier in terms of changes. Do you think there'll be many changes going into the game?
I think the one, so I think Haxa for Dyson is probably the obvious one. Dyson tweeted out or Instagrammed out saying that he's back fighting or something like that was the translation. So he's back in the mix, as it were. But Haxa not scoring, I just think Maeda is Ange's guy. So that's probably the easy change that happens. And then I say in defence, I think if Taylor and Starfelt are both kind of 80-20, 70-30, maybe he does give one of them the game off. And then it's kind of, so again, you're kind of going into politics of it all. Does he not give Taylor the game because he's told Steve Clark, oh, there's an injury, we need to manage his minutes? Or does he play Taylor and give the international break as the recovery period? Or does he say, Starfelt, oh, big man, you've been called up, you're doing a great job, you're only 80% fit. we don't need you for the weekend. You get ready and have a great time for Sweden, mate. You've earned it, you know, and go and have a good time. We'll play UK and he can get some minutes. So, like I say, I don't think the manager would let, if it is within his powers, both of them, Taylor and Starfelt, not to play. But really, there's so much we don't know about it all that I'd love to see Yuki start. I'd love to see Taylor start. But they're both very selfish reasons for that. But you know, so it really depends on the condition of the players and the priorities, I guess. It's hard to judge from afar. That's just why I'm clueless on defence this week.
Ralston might even be thrown into the mix. Obviously, started that game at Celtic Park last week. He could even be one that's thrown into the mix to get some minutes. So you never know. Even kind of in midfield, you'd expect it would be the same trio of McGregor, Hatate, and Moy. But again, you never know. Moy maybe going to be a steel game, might fancy O'Reilly at the weekend. So you never know. You really just never know with Ange Postecoglou. Just before we have our last wee chat, I've got the winner here of the fourth kit. Obviously, St. Patrick's Day tomorrow. I hope everybody celebrating has a great St. Patrick's Day. I hope to be out and enjoy a few jars of Guinness tomorrow. Hopefully no hangover for the game on Saturday, Quinny, but being a 3 o'clock kickoff should be all right. If we get a hangover, should be recovered for the game at 3 o'clock. But drum roll here. Just let me get it up here. Yep, there we go. The winner of the fourth shirt is Andrew Bailey. That's at Andrew Bailey 10. Please do contact the site. It's an absolute belter at top. Again, I've kind of fourth kit. I don't really think there was a need for it, but again, if you like it and you want to buy it, batter in. This gentleman won't need to buy it. One of the fourth shirt is Andrew Bailey 10. Thanks to everybody who's subscribed to the channel for the competition. We hope to be able to bring you some more of that. It allows us, the more subscribers we've got, it allows us to bring you free content here on YouTube and on the site. We've put a lot of great clips up with Bruni from the other day. The whole presser's there if you do want to check it out. But there you go. That is the winner of the fourth shirt is Andrew Bailey. That's at Andrew Bailey 10. So please do get in touch with the page. Congratulations. It's a nice top, isn't it, Quinny?
Yeah, I was quite surprised. I don't think we've did a fourth top for ages, if ever. You know,
I don't think we've ever.
Yeah, caught me by surprise. We could have used it before the St Mirren game, it must be said. A fourth strip, but
I much prefer that top to that grey contraption.
Well, I quite liked the grey one when it came out, but it's just been a wee bit voodoo-y, hasn't it? It's been a wee bit.
I think it's okay now. After we thumps it, man, I think we're okay now with it. It's kind of same colour as this almost. I just thought it was a wee bit kind of training top wise, but again, I think I think it's split opinion a wee bit. But listen, well done to Andrew. Cracking top, great prize, and we hope you thoroughly enjoy it. Before I go for the final time, unfortunately, I think this is just, you know, kind of looking at the whole picture of Celtic just now. In terms of squad, I can't remember as strong a squad. In terms of where we're at just now, even probably going back to Brendan's first season, in terms of the depth in that, I don't think we had it. And I think we're up against a stronger Rangers team. I just think it's been an absolute joy since Ange Postecoglou arrived in at the club, and everything he's actually done, he's transformed it, he's revolutionised it, and I think the good times are only going to continue. Yeah,
I agree, mate. And I'm looking forward to it. I think we're going to have next week a masked guest called D3C, and he'll have a wee voice changer on, and we'll have him back every week, once in a while. Mystery guest, we'll Stig, you know, is that Stig figure joining the channel? Yeah. Aye, so you won't know who he is. You might recognise his voice, but you won't be able to.
Yeah. But it's as long as Jeremy Clarkson's not invited, if his Stig's coming in.
So D3C, we'll see him soon with his wee it's gonna voice change and stuff, Declan. But is it
a Daft Punk figure? This is what I'm pitching for what you're saying here, you know.
Yeah, that's that. We could dress you up like Daft Punk, no problem at all. Oh no, it wouldn't be you. Sorry, it'd be somebody else. No one would know who it was. But no, mate, I agree. I think this is the best. Honestly, like in my lifetime, the best squad we've had, the most exciting time. In many ways, the most exciting, one of the most exciting times to be a fan and to watch the team like develop and grow. Because some of the great teams we've had in the past have just kind of like happened. And you're like, oh wow, we're great. Whereas this, you see it coming, you know. And I've had great. I know it's kind of at the end of the show and all that kind of stuff, Declan. But honestly, mate, I can't say enough. I've had a lot of fun doing these with you. It's always been the highlight of my week. Yep. I'll miss you, buddy. I look forward to seeing you wherever you go.
I'll miss you as well. It's been great, as I say. It's a real privilege to cover your football team. And as I say, I'm not going to be at all. I'll certainly still be at the games and whatever. But yep, a massive thanks just before I finish to Craig for giving me the opportunity to be in CeltsAreHere, writing both on the site and doing the podcast. It's became a really good pal. He gave me a lot of support over the past kind of 10 months. There's a lot of hard work goes on and behind the background. Producing and delivering Celtic content. We've got a couple of stars, I would say, coming up, and Josh and Aaron. So keep your eyes out for both of them. Both clever, intelligent young guys that have good Tims. So to everybody who's been tuning in, well, I've been your host. Thank you very much. Take care. God bless, and have a great St. Patrick's Day. Cheers, Quinny.